Glory to you, O Lord. Glory to you.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God. Tomorrow we celebrate the feast of the elevation or the exaltation of the Holy Cross. It's a beautiful feast day, and it happens to be the feast day of my alma mater, Holy Cross Seminary. And so we always love when this time of year comes around, those of us who are graduates of Holy Cross. And it always reminds me of how significant the cross itself is in our life of faith. It points us forward. It is a sign guiding us to the way of life that we ought to be living. And there's a spirituality to the cross itself. And in today's gospel reading, although it is not the day of the Feast of the Elevation of the Cross, because of it being a great feast, oftentimes the Sunday gospel reading and epistle reading before and after a great feast are changed. They move from their original cycle that we've already been on, and they point to the feast, point forward to the feast that's about to happen or back to the feast that has just happened. And this Sunday and next Sunday are those type of Sundays. And so this Sunday we are pointing to the cross, and it is this gospel reading and this epistle reading are teaching us something about how we ought to be in the midst of the world. First, the epistle reading talks about an issue that's arising in many cities across the land that Paul is writing to. But in this case, he's writing to Galatia, the Galatians. And there's an issue because there are members of the community of Jewish descent who are telling the Gentile Christians that they need to be circumcised. They need to adhere to certain practices of the law in order to be saved. But Paul calls them out because they're not doing it because they want to be faithful to the law. In fact, they themselves are not really being faithful to the law, but they're afraid of what others will think if they don't do the things that they're supposed to be doing. And this is our first teaching that we have in relation to the cross, because the cross teaches us that we don't do things just to do them. We do them with intention. We sacrifice with intention, just like Christ himself intentionally sacrificed himself upon the cross. And even the practices that we have in our life of faith as Orthodox Christians, baptism, marriages, even the Eucharist itself, if we do not approach these with intentionality, if we do not approach these with the same self-sacrificial spirit of Christ upon the cross, they're empty practices. And just like the Judaizers who Paul is talking about in this passage, we will come up short. We won't be living authentically our faith, our life of faith. But we have to boast in something, and we boast in the cross. And what does the cross teach us about how we live our life? If it's not just showing up to services, but living with intentionality, it's living self-sacrificially. We self-sacrifice by being here, by being present. And for those of us who aren't here now or won't be here later, at least we should sacrifice enough to stay in front of the screen so that we are actually praying. We need to not just show up, but be self-sacrificial and drive out the thoughts that are distracting us, at least for the amount of time that we're here. And in doing so, this self-sacrifice will begin to transform us, and we will become more authentically Christ-like. But we also have to be self-sacrificial in other areas of our life. For God so loved the world. For God loved the world in this way, that he gave his only begotten Son. God the Father sacrificed his Son. And God the Son sacrificed his very body upon the cross. And in all things, we need to be mindful of the ways in which that we can be self-sacrificial. Self-sacrificial in love for the other, so that we can be imitators of Christ. And in that way, the sign of the cross isn't an empty sign in our lives. The cross itself is never an empty sign. But the cross of Christ will be a signpost guiding us to the way of life that we want to lead as Orthodox Christians. A life worthy of that sacrifice. And it's a challenge. It's a difficult thing. It's not an easy thing to do. But it's real, and it's authentic, and it'll transform not only our lives, but the lives around us. This weekend, as we know, would have been the Yasu Greek Festival, a time when we welcome the community of Charlotte into our midst. Perhaps this might be a good year with all of the crucifixions that we've had, all of the sufferings that we had from pandemics and personal struggles that we might have had. Now might be the time to think about ways in which we can still engage the community around us, the ones that we welcome here, but in love, in self-sacrifice, and a willingness to offer to them hospitality in a different way. Hospitality of going out and being present with those who are at need. Hospitality by welcoming people that we would normally not welcome into our hearts. And again, in this way, we are pointing to the cross. We are living the self-sacrifice of Christ upon the cross in our everyday life. God bless you. It's so beautiful to see you all. Those of you who are at home watching, God bless you as well. I hope a day comes soon when we won't have to have all of these restrictions and we can have a full house anytime we want. God bless you. Have a beautiful start to your week.